Hi again, and welcome to another Digest and ELT Central Chat. Today I'm speaking with Mustafa Ahmed, who is the founder or co-founder and chief technical operator of the fabulous student app Lock&Stock. Hi Mustafa, it's a pleasure having you on board. It's great to see you again after all this time.
Hi Andy, great to see you too.
Yeah, fabulous. Right, so I guess the obvious question, Mustafa, I mean, Lock&Stock it started very small and it's really exploded. So what exactly is it and how does it work?
As of today, Lock&Stock is an education marketplace where we've partnered up with hundreds and thousands of universities across the globe to provide affordable education to students across the globe. Right, the core mission of Lock&Stock initially was to combat phone addiction in the classroom. Right, and while that is still our core mission, what we've realized is that in order to get a student to give up their phone to pay attention in class, they need something in return. And so the best incentive we came up with at the time was offers and discounts, right? And what we've realized is that the cost of education is increasing year over year. What I used to pay for university, back when I was studying, the kids these days are paying at least 20% more. So what we thought was, instead of just simply giving a student a buy one get one for a pizza shop or a Philly tea or any of that, why not give them discounts and offers to universities as well? And that's what Lock&Stock is today.
Okay, so you mentioned there that the start of it was to get students to turn their phones off while they were in class, and as a former teacher, I understand how difficult that is. I mean, I used to try and incorporate the phone within the class, so that to if they're going to use it, then let's use it for the class. But obviously, it is a seriously big distraction. So whose idea was that in the first place?
So the idea originated from Craig Fernandez. He's our co-founder and CEO. The story goes as this: that he was sitting in class, so he was studying in the States, and he gets a call from his dad. He very shamelessly picks it up in the middle of class, answers the phone, gets scolded for picking up the phone, and then realizes that every other student in the class of 200 are glued to their phones, right? And you see the poor professor in the center of the classroom, just going about explaining and taking the kids through the lecture, but nobody's paying attention. And that's kind of when he realized that this is a global issue. So it's not just an issue in the States, it's not just an issue in Dubai, but an issue everywhere across the globe. And it's funny when you think about it, yeah, that at least here in the UAE, when you're in high school, you're kind of forbidden to even bring your phone, let alone use your phone. Right, you're kind of trained that phones are absolutely not allowed. If you bring it, you could face severe consequences, even up to suspension. You're expected to give up your phone if you, or surrender it if you have it, and so on. Right, so this is the kind of training that they put us through for 12, 13 years of our lives. And the moment you graduate and you come to university, all that goes out the window. You're glued to it. You're on your phone nonstop. I'm sure you've seen this at your campus. I definitely remember seeing it at my campus. It's funny, it makes you think that that those 12, 13 years of staying away from your phones should have trained you to stay away from it now that you're in university, but that clearly isn't the case.
But that clearly is. You're absolutely right there. I think as well, what happens is when students get to university, at school life, they're there from 7:30 until 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And it's solid study, but once you're at university, that can reduce to sort of between 10 and 16 hours, possibly not even 16. And so they think they've got all this time to be able to do their work, and of course it's not the case, because you have to there's an awful lot of self-study involved there. The idea of getting kids to turn their phones off, that must have been really difficult. So how did you put that across? I mean, you mentioned getting a cup of tea from Phillies or something. So was that how did you raise the incentive?
Right. So students here in the UAE, they love to, I guess in any other country, they love to hang out, they love to socialize, they love to go out with their friends. If your classes, if your group of friends have their classes done by 12, everyone wants to go to the mall, hang out, and so on, right? So, and we know for a fact that culturally speaking, students do not get a lot of pocket money to begin with, right? And their parents are not going to give them loads of pocket money, so they're very conservative in how much they spend. they're very careful, and ends up happening. What ends up happening is that they don't get to go out and enjoy and have a great time. Knowing that this is a core pain point for student life, we figured that this is the best way to really hit home and get them to adopt such an application, right? And that meant for us as Lock&Stock to go out and partner up with the biggest brands that we could find, right? Because there's kind of no point if you're going to have an app that has a brand or an offer that is on one corner of the country or the other end of the city, right? So for us, strategically, our plan was to find some of the biggest name brands that you could think of, right? From Philly to Noon.com, to Amazon, to and a whole bunch of more. When we launched the application, we had just 30 partners on board that kind of believed in our mission. And so they signed on with us before we launched. And as of today, we have about 400 to 500 partners, right? Not just in the UAE, but internationally as well.
Yeah. How did you convince the big hitters to come with you?
So we tied back to our core mission, right? Of you as a partner joining Lock&Stock as a platform to provide your discounts and offers means that you're contributing to the core mission of helping us combat phone addiction in the classroom, right? The next generation of the workforce that's going to be joining, the big companies, and not just the big companies, even these companies, these partners as well, are going to be, the last thing we want is that they will be, phone addicted graduates. So by tying it back to our core mission, they feel compelled to sort of join in, and in return, Lock&Stock is providing a form of marketing and exposure to these companies that they otherwise would struggle to get, right? Because traditionally for one to market, you would market to university students, you would want to go offline, on campus type of marketing, right? Digital marketing is also available, but Lock&Stock is kind of specific and targeted to just this user group. This means that you as a partner can now be able to target students from across the entire country in different pockets, right? Bringing them on or attracting them towards your brand that they may have previously not even heard of, right? Because the amount of movement you get about, at least if you're a high school student, is constrained to getting from point A to point B, and if there's a metro line in between. Right, so you don't generally get to go out to the far places in the country because you probably can't drive or you probably can't get there. So if your brand is out there, no one's going to hear about you. Yeah. So this is kind of where Lock&Stock comes in to really drive that attraction towards the brands.
Okay, that's really interesting. Early days. Obviously, startups, they face an awful lot of problems, teething troubles, things like that. What were your biggest obstacles and how did you overcome them?
Right. So biggest obstacles was, I think first and foremost, the most common one was, in our case, was that this app was too good to be true. Right. Most people are just like, I'm going to get free stuff that is, offers and discounts similar to the likes of Entertainer and Groupon, but I get for free and all I have to do is lock my phone. It sounds a little too good to be true, right? So I guess that's a common problem to any company whose brand is not well known, right? So that was one of the initial ones. So to combat that, we did a lot of on-ground marketing, and that was done through a student brand ambassador program that we ran, where we had ambassadors, at least one or two ambassadors in about 40 to 50 different schools and universities across the country, because for me to come here and tell a bunch of students that, hey, download this app, it's great, you're not going to listen to me, right? But if it was their own classmates, their own peers coming and giving and selling them the propaganda or telling them about this great application, they're more likely and more inclined to sort of listen and, you know what, I'll give it a shot. If Andy says it's great, I'm gonna try it out, right? And that's kind of how we were able to sort of not just break through and get into that into the student population, but also kind of use these ambassadors as almost like marketing lightning rods, right? Where we were able to get someone there who could actually sit, explain the application, take people through it, troubleshoot issues, and provide, just support the overall user experience.
Yeah, you mentioned that you started off quite small, but and again, with lock on your phone, that's now okay, it's a core part of your business, but you've really upscaled, haven't you? So you're working with sort of getting students enrolled in university now. So what were the biggest obstacles, or what were the challenges that you faced when you scaled up the operation?
Right. So the education market, or the educational consultancy market, is extremely packed. Right. There are a lot of different players around. If you just Google today education consultancies in the UAE, you'll probably find 20 pages of Google search. Right. So there are a lot of players out there. The biggest challenge was getting universities to sort of take a chance on us, right? Because to them it was, oh, I hope this is just not another education consultancy who promises me big and doesn't deliver, right? That was the biggest challenge, right? So where it took us months to close our first partner. It was only after the success of the first one it took us, the same amount of time to close 20 more partners. Right. So it was really that as a struggle, because if you have to think about it, right, when you say education marketplace, then the next comparable thing that comes to mind is like an Amazon, right, or noon.com, an e-commerce platform, right? E-commerce platforms only do as well as, apart from their customer experience and the service and so on, but only do as well as the amount of product they have, right? The variety of products they have, where you can cross compare and check out more things, and you never feel like, oh, they don't have the product I'm looking for, right? So that was our biggest struggle, because if we were to back then brand ourselves as an education marketplace and only have 2, 3, maybe 10 at the most partners offering their courses, students wouldn't have the variety and the diversity of choice as they do today, right? Where we have close to 1,000 partners situated all across the globe. Right, where Australia, UK, Canada, and US are our biggest territories, right? And obviously the strongest one being the UAE itself, where we have partners that have been with us for the last couple of years or so. So that was probably one of the biggest struggles that we had at the time, was just sort of proving the model, right? Not just for ourselves, but proving it to the partners that we had, right? To show them that we're the real deal. We bring you real value. Right, we're in it for the long haul.
What were the biggest tech issues?
Oh, that's a good question, right? Because I oversee tech, so there's always one issue after another. So the reason why I say this is that when you're a company that's constantly trying to innovate and trying to break the norms and break and redefine the status quo, there's always going to be challenges, right? So tech issues. So I think fundamentally as an app, we've done well, right? We've not had major tech challenges in that sense. The tech challenges that we did have was in terms of scaling, right? How can you make this app now globally available overnight, right? How can you create or implement gamification measurements into the app to create a more sticky experience, right? Where we really double down on the experience of locking a phone, and kind of bring this massive user base of close to 60,000 users feel connected as part of this larger mission, right? So with all these sort of, I guess, statements, having tech work as an enabler or support system to sort of bring this vision to life has kind of been where the struggle is, right? And with struggle, you need the two, I guess, components that really work hand in hand and that really help and support is, one, experience, and second, a great team, right? For which Lock&Stock, being a company formed by or consisting of really young blood, experience is not always the strong factor that we have. But I think we what we do have is a solid team, right? A team that consists of multiple talented folks, folks who come with this mindset or this readiness to sort of wear multiple hats and really double down and get the job done. And ultimately, I think that's kind of what's allowed us to be as innovative as we are, right? So while there have been challenges and struggles, many of which the end customers never gets to see, they have been resolves and celebrations when we have cracked those problems that kept us up at night.
Yeah, you mentioned your team there, and the team is so important. How did you go about selecting your guys?
So my co-founder and I and the rest of the partners, what we realized is that we were able to sort of build a company out of folks who have just graduated, right?
Mm.
We were able to do so far so well, right? And we thought, okay, you know what? If we were able to do it, we're pretty sure we're going to find people out there who were just as young as we were, who had just the same drive as we did, who are just as crazy and fanatic and innovative as we are. And that's kind of that's the bet that we went with, right? And to no surprise, we were able to find that kind of fire in a lot of the folks that we have on the team today, right? In most organizations, I guess you could say the average age of an employee is about 35, 36. In our case, it's not even 24, right?
Wow.
So it's a relatively young team where who have been given responsibility and given the trust and been given the faith. The faith has been put into them to sort of deliver and produce the kind of results that we as Lock&Stock kind of have set as a bar of quality, right? And we're so far it's been awesome, right? Like get to work with a really awesome team. And the kind of things, Andy, like there are a lot of things under the hood right now, a lot of things in the pipeline, a lot of things in the works that I'm just kind of itching to share about, but just holding off on because we're expected to go live with a few of these things in the next couple of months, and that's really gonna change the game entirely.
Yeah. Well, one of my questions was going to be what's next, and so if it's all under wraps, maybe we could have another chat at some time, and we could talk about your new stuff and what's coming out. So obviously the enthusiasm takes has sort of replaced the experience, if you like. And so what the guys are doing with your company is they're putting everything that they've learned in university into practice straight away without having to sort of go and get experience. So that's a fantastic learning curve for them. Was there a time that you ever thought that this isn't going to work out, or you're sort of pulling it? Obviously, you haven't pulled your hair out, but was there a time you ever thought, I need to knock this on the head? And if there was, how did you get past it?
Yeah, I think especially in the early days, they in the first year itself, there were moments, but we kind of knew going into this head on that 80% of companies don't make it out alive after the first year, right? And we didn't want to be another statistic, right? So it was there were times where things got tough, things got challenging. But we dug deep. We sort of made the most of the talent and the resources, the limited talent and resources that we had at the time, and we're able to constantly persevere, right? Like, so for example, our revenue model that we have right now is the 8th model that worked, right? The first 7 didn't, and usually in that particular case, we had a ticking timer above our heads, right? That we had to find something that works, right, before we officially close up shop. So yeah, there were a lot of crazy, stressful, intense moments on this journey. But I think that's the kind of stuff that looking back on it, you feel so blessed to have, right? That kind of experience, right? Because now if I were to compare myself to my peers or to the guys and girls that I studied with back in university, I don't think they've got the kind of stories that I get to share, right? And that's just from 3 years of doing this, right? You can give it another 7 years, and we'd be, God knows where we'd be next, right? So it's moments like this that I think that really accelerate the learning, right? That we have, because I think you might have heard this from your students, right? And that what you learn in university, you only get to take a piece of it and really go out there and apply it, if you're lucky, right? Yeah. Well, there are a lot of times people don't even get to do the job that they studied for, right? That's true. And for me, at least myself, to have these kind of crazy experiences or these challenging moments just means that my personal learning has just been so accelerated to the point where I feel like I can sit at a table, with a bunch of 30-year-olds and have a conversation about business and work and teams and, software practices and all these other big, big words and ideas. that most people in my 20s or in their 20s would only be able to do after going through those experience over a number of years, right? So that's what I kind of think is what's given us that upper hand, that, you know, even though the challenges get tougher and more complex, the experiences and the learning that we have compared to most other folks is just also just as crazy, that allows us to combat those issues.
Yeah, yeah, that's wow, that's fantastic. This is a multi-pronged question here. With the last year has been pretty traumatic for most businesses. COVID has brought on so many different new challenges. What are the main things that you've learned from the COVID experience, if you like? Challenges again, and overcoming them. So yeah, a multi-pronged question there.
Right. So that's an interesting one. Yeah. So for us, and since you're in the education space yourself, right? The 2020 was practically a recession year, right? Yeah. For multiple industries, but especially the education one. I think for us, what really was, if I would have had a pinpoint on something, was our ability to react and adapt, right? The pandemic hits, lockdowns initiated, a whole bunch of new rules are put into motion. There is no guarantee as to when do we revert back to normal. I mean, heck, it's been a year now, we're still not back to normal. And overnight, just like that, the customer needs and requirements and wants have changed, right? Kids who wanted to go to the US to study can no longer do so. Kids who wanted to, start their education are now in financial peril and no longer can, right? Schools and universities closed, and our ability to geofence each and every institute for a locking mechanism is practically useless, right? So a lot of these things that came up, we were able to sort of quickly tackle and resolve and move on, and I guess jump back onto our track that we had in mind for the year very quickly, because we were able to adapt and respond to these problems, right? To these scenarios, because I'm pretty sure I can speak for a lot of different companies. The effects of COVID-19 kind of what it did essentially was throw a massive curveball to the plans that they had for the rest of the year, right? And those plans, and I'm guessing just like for every other company, meant plans for growth, plans for success, plans for taking the company to the next level. And if you're going to be hit with a massive curveball like that, that means you don't get to work on growth until you resolve and put out all the fires, right? So for us, that's kind of how we looked at it, right? It was like, okay, cool, we've got all these different fires running around. Let's quickly put them out, and so that we can get back to our plans for growth and get back on track, so that we can look back on the year and say that, hey, we did a good job, right? And that's kind of what we did.
Okay. Final question for you, Mustafa. All of your experience from starting to finishing to dealing with COVID and the challenge of taking your company from a startup to upscaling it all the time. What's the one overriding lesson that you've learned that you could possibly pass on to a young entrepreneur?
Right. I think it's probably the most cliche thing, but don't give up, right? Like, you're going to be backed into corner after corner, right? Because a lot of the times it's mostly because you don't know how to resolve those issues, right? That's kind of those moments where you think and wish, if I had that experience, I'd probably know how to do this. So if I had those funds, I'd probably be able to, overcome it, right? And the thing is that our generation is so resourceful, right? That we're able to sort of figure things out as we go and kind of make something out of nothing, right? And that only really happens when you have that passion, that drive, and that resilience to not give up, right? We got into this entrepreneurial game because of that passion. If you let the hard challenges sort of put out your passion, then that's it. You've officially given up, right? So it's if I had to really sum it up, just hold on to your dream. Don't let anything diminish or kill that fire.
Yeah, so resilience and perseverance. Then I guess that as well as having the technical ability or the sales ability or whatever, resilience and persistence are two of the most important things.
Yeah, because see, the ability will come. You'll pick it up, you'll learn it, you'll find a co-founder who's an expert at it. You know, there'll always be ways to sort of acquire those skills, right, within the organization, not necessarily within yourself, right? But you can't recreate, or you can't find perseverance and resilience in other people, right? It has to sort of, it's one of those things that has to start at the core of the company and just sort of flourish and spread out across and reach, all parts of the company. And if you're the guy or girl who's this core entrepreneur that started the whole thing, then it's up to you to sort of keep it alive, right, by keeping that passion alive.
Yeah. Okay, Mustafa. I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you're an extremely busy man. I wish you all the luck in the world with Lock&Stock, and hopefully, once these new ideas come through, we can have a chat about those as well.
Definitely. Thanks so much.
Okay, Mustafa. It's great talking to you.